My sister stole my fiancé 3 days before our wedding, and my parents rewarded her with the ceremony I had spent years planning. While she tried on my future like a borrowed dress, I signed over the ballroom without shedding a tear. They thought I had finally surrendered, so why was I already preparing one final gift for her? 3 days before my wedding, I found my younger sister in the bed I had bought for my marriage. I left my office early to carry place cards to our new house in Winnetka. The rooms looked ready for a life together. Then I saw his rehearsal dinner jacket on the floor. Her heels rested beside the staircase. The sea green dress she had worn to dinner lay halfway up the steps. 2 champagne glasses stood on the kitchen counter. The bedroom door was partly open. I pushed it wider. They both turned toward me. For a moment, no one spoke. My sister clutched the sheet. My fiancé started saying my name as though repeating it might change what I had seen. I did not scream. My work had taught me that frightened people often lie first and destroy evidence second. I stepped back, raised my phone, and took one clear picture of their faces without exposing them. Then I photographed the clothing and the digital clock with the date and time. I opened the smart lock application and saved the entry history. He had entered 2 hours earlier. My sister arrived 7 minutes after him. Then I removed my engagement ring. My hand shook once. I placed the ring on the nightstand and walked out while they tried to explain. From my car, I sent one message to the family group. The wedding is canceled. I will contact the vendors myself. My mother called before I reached the corner. She did not ask whether I was safe. She asked why I had alarmed everyone while relatives were flying into Chicago. My father called next about non-refundable deposits, out-of-state guests, business partners, and the family name on the North Shore. Then he said what hurt even more. If your sister and he have chosen each other, let her have the wedding. Don't waste everything. I had always been the dependable daughter. I paid my own tuition, built my career without family money, and answered every late-night call when my sister had another crisis. I had covered most of the down payment on that house. I had spent years protecting people who had never protected me. People often mistake the dependable person for the person who needs nothing. After enough years, they stop asking what you can afford to lose. They simply assume you will pay the cost. My father told me to come to his house the next morning and sign the wedding contracts over to my sister. "All right," I said. "She can have what she asked for." What none of them understood was that giving her the wedding did not mean I was giving up. It meant I finally had time to decide what my last gift would be. That night, I checked into an extended stay hotel. Before I entered my room, my phone lit up with photographs of the documents my father expected me to sign. The next morning, I walked into my parents' living room with the contracts fresh in my mind. The room had been arranged like a negotiation. My father stood beside the fireplace with a folder. My mother sat close to my sister. My former fiancé wore a cashmere sweater and looked comfortable for a man who had destroyed a wedding less than 24 hours earlier. One chair sat several feet away. It was meant for me. No one apologized. My father asked me to sit. I remained standing. My former fiancé spoke first. He said we had been growing apart for months. I worked too much. I questioned every expense. I avoided dinners and charity events he considered important. My sister, he said, understood his world in a way I never had. He did not apologize for betraying me. He explained why he believed I had earned it. My sister began to cry before she spoke. She said they had never wanted to hurt me, but love had happened. She wanted my forgiveness, my blessing, and my silence. Then she asked me to stand in the bridal party so guests would see our family was still united. My mother squeezed her hand. "Don't make one terrible mistake define the rest of everyone's life," she said. My father opened the folder. "The deposits are gone either way," he told me. "Be the bigger person. You have always been the practical one." The phrase "be the bigger person" is often offered to the victim because asking the wrongdoer to change would be inconvenient. He placed the contracts on the coffee table. They transferred the ballroom, catering, flowers, band, and hotel rooms. Nothing involved a marriage license. This was only the shell of the wedding I had planned. I read every page. The longer I took, the more restless they became. My father checked his watch, my mother sighed, my sister dabbed at tears that never fell. Then I noticed the necklace at her throat. A thin gold chain held a teardrop diamond against her skin. She touched it when she saw me looking. She said he had given it to her to mark their new chapter. He looked away. I signed because keeping a ballroom would not restore my dignity. The deposits were lost, and I needed them to believe I was still easy to manage. At the door, he called after me. "You'll understand someday that this was best for everyone." I did not answer. In my car, my phone displayed a notice from our joint savings account. The password had changed 2 months earlier. I did not remember approving that. Back at the hotel, I opened my laptop and logged in as a co-owner. The balance was far lower than it should have been. The account should have covered property taxes, final vendors, house repairs, and a cushion after the wedding. Instead, $80,000 was gone. The money had left in transfers between $3,500 and $7,500, spread across several weeks through one payment service. Alone, each looked ordinary. Together, the pattern was clear. I called the bank's fraud department. I asked them to stop transfers, flag the charges, reset the password, and restore two-step verification to my phone. The representative warned that recovery could be difficult because we both owned the account. About $55,000 led to sports betting sites, cash advances, and a gambling account. Old memories changed shape. The late client dinners, the scores he checked beneath the table, the anger whenever I asked about money. The remaining $25,000 went to a jewelry store. Our shared email contained the receipt. A gold chain. One teardrop diamond. The date matched an afternoon when he claimed he was handling a work emergency. The delivery address was my sister's apartment. I pictured the necklace against her throat. She had called it a gift for their new beginning. Now it looked like a receipt she did not know she was wearing. I placed my engagement ring beside the laptop. Our guest list remained open. I cried for the future I had trusted. Then I washed my face and returned to the numbers. Strength is not the absence of grief. Sometimes strength is giving grief a chair beside you and continuing to read the numbers. He wanted our assets combined after marriage. He resisted a prenuptial agreement. He pushed me to use my credit for the mortgage. When I checked a bill, he called it distrust. He insisted on collecting the bank mail himself. I stopped asking why I had not been enough. He had chosen me for stability. He had chosen my sister for display. When I downloaded the full history, another entry appeared. Collateral lien, $500,000. The loan was secured by the trust my grandfather had left me. The authorization page carried my signature. I had never signed it. If you are still listening to this story, please leave a comment letting me know where you are tuning in from and what time it is there. I always love knowing who is sharing this journey with me, whether you are in a small town, a big city, or somewhere far away. Your presence makes this journey feel a little less lonely. The next morning, the forged signature was still open on my screen when I called the company managing my grandfather's trust. The administrator made me verify my identity, answer security questions, send my driver's license, and sign an affidavit stating I had never requested the loan. I also asked for an administrative hold. She could not promise the money would be returned. She could only stop new activity while the account was reviewed. When the file arrived, I studied the signature again. It was almost perfect. My family had copies of old tax returns, property records, and forms I had signed. But the forger had used an older version. After wrist surgery, I changed the first stroke of my signature. The loan document used the sharp angle I had stopped making years earlier. The authentication records were worse. The confirmation email had gone to an old family address. The phone number receiving security codes had been changed by someone claiming to be me. That number belonged to my sister. The notary was my father's longtime assistant. The list of people capable of arranging it had become short. The $500,000 had been divided into 2 transfers. $200,000 went to an LLC registered under my former fiancé's name. The remaining $300,000 went to an account connected to my mother and sister. I could not legally see inside that account. Still, days after the money arrived, my sister posted a new Porsche, a European shopping trip, wedding upgrades, and a public relations firm. Those posts were not proof, they required investigation. My grandfather had not created the trust so I could live extravagantly. He knew I was the person everyone called when a bill was late or a crisis needed cleaning up. He wanted me to have security in retirement. Once he told me not to let loyalty make me poor. Now I understood. I remembered my mother handing me papers she called routine family updates. I refused to sign because I was rushing to work. She looked offended. My father had asked who managed the trust, whether loans could be taken against it, and where notices were sent. I mistook those questions for concern. Financial abuse inside a family rarely begins with a stolen fortune. It begins with small permissions, borrowed passwords, unsigned favors, and the belief that saying no makes you selfish. The affair had opened the door. Behind it was a much older truth. My family did not see my stability as something I had built. They saw it as something they could use. I called my brother's husband, a corporate litigator my parents had never accepted. When I said my signature had been forged, he did not ask whether I was sure. "Don't touch another file," he said. "Save everything exactly as it is, and meet me in the city." I backed up the evidence without changing a file name, date, or metadata. Then I packed the folder and drove toward Chicago. The cafe near the Chicago Loop was quiet when I arrived. My brother-in-law sat in the back corner, facing the door. I placed the folder between us and watched him review the joint statements, loan file, forged signature, notary information, changed email, and registration for the LLC. He did not look pleased. His first question was whether I was safe. He asked if my family still had keys, who could access my email, whether I had changed every password, and whether anyone knew where I was staying. No one had asked me those things. They had asked about the ballroom, guests, and money spent. He asked whether I could sleep behind a locked door. That difference mattered more than I expected. After confirming that I was secure, he explained the boundaries. I was not to post the files online, enter accounts that were not mine, alter original documents, threaten anyone, or record conversations without legal advice. I was also not to warn my family that the evidence had been preserved. "Justice needs proof that can be used," he said, "not just proof that makes people angry." He began preparing a fraud affidavit. He drafted preservation notices for the bank and trust company, then outlined a request for a temporary restraining order over the remaining assets. He contacted the compliance officer at my former fiancé's firm and requested a review of his client access. If the signature fraud was confirmed, a criminal referral would follow. He warned me that none of this would be quick. Investigations could take months. No one would be dragged away from a wedding because of one phone call. My brother arrived after his hospital shift. He brought an old email our mother had accidentally sent him. She had asked whether he would witness an estate update and told him not to mention it because she wanted the change to be a surprise. He had refused because I was not present. Then our parents stopped asking. He apologized for not warning me sooner. I did not blame him. We had both been trained to keep the peace by staying quiet. Blood tells you who you are related to. It does not tell you who will protect you when protecting you becomes inconvenient. My brother-in-law checked a filing. My former fiancé had applied for a business line of credit. My sister had signed a personal guarantee. My parents had pledged part of their property as collateral. They had signed willingly, convinced a large investment was coming. My brother-in-law asked whether I planned to stop her. "She is an adult," I said. "I will not lie to her. But I will not rescue her from a choice she made after refusing to read the papers." He placed a red velvet box on the table. "Then make sure your final gift contains only the truth." I closed my hand around the box. The red velvet box felt heavier than it looked. That evening, I carried it into the lakeside hotel, where my rehearsal dinner had become someone else's celebration. White orchids hung above the tables. Candles flickered beside napkins embroidered with my sister's initials. The guest list had barely changed, only the bride had. My father had paid extra to replace the photographs and signs in 3 days. Everything else remained as I had chosen it. The room was beautiful. It also felt cold. A string quartet played near the windows. My father praised the man who had betrayed me as someone who understood business, ambition, and loyalty. Then he called him the son he had always wanted. Across the room, my brother went still. Then he reached for his husband's hand and held it openly. He did not look toward our parents for approval. My mother moved among the guests, saying our family had survived a misunderstanding. According to her, I had behaved with maturity, and my sister had found the love meant for her. When she reached my table, she rested one hand on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you for accepting what was meant to happen. I've accepted that everyone here made a choice." She smiled, missing the meaning. My sister wore the teardrop diamond against her throat. She talked about her new car, the honeymoon, and helping her future husband expand his company. She laughed about how seriously I took contracts and bank statements. Then she thanked me for not ruining her special day. I looked at the necklace and realized she was wearing evidence in plain sight. Her fiancé spent more time with investors than with her, promising opportunities and high returns. Each time his phone vibrated, his smile tightened. His firm's compliance office had ordered him to appear Monday morning. My brother-in-law quietly updated me. The trust hold was active. The bank had blocked new transfers. The forged signature was under review. Preservation notices had reached the firm. Inside the box were the necklace receipt, the loan file, the trust notice, a USB containing records from accounts bearing my name, and one handwritten card. I had left out anything private, unverified, or likely to harm innocent people. When I was younger, I believed silence meant surrender. Growing older taught me that silence can be the space where a person stops reacting and starts deciding. Near the end of dinner, my mother announced that I would speak as the bride's sister. My sister smiled. "Just keep it gracious." I rested my hand over the box. "I promise. I'll give you exactly what you deserve." Back in my room, I placed the pale blue bridesmaid dress, my printed speech, and the red velvet box side by side. The next morning, I would watch my sister sign beside the man she believed she had stolen from me. Then the wedding planner would place a microphone in my hand. The next morning, I put on the pale blue bridesmaid dress and slipped the red velvet box into my pocket. My sister's name now appeared on the signs, cake, and napkins. The flowers, music, and menu were still mine. It was strange to watch another woman step into a life decorated with my decisions. She had taken my place, but she had not created any of it. Before the guests arrived, my mother pulled me into the bridal suite. My sister sat before the mirror in her wedding dress. My mother placed a statement on the vanity. It said I had ended the engagement because we were incompatible. It cleared my sister of responsibility and required my silence about the photograph, the money, and the deposits. "You already gave me the wedding," my sister said. "Why keep punishing us? Refusing to lie for you is not punishment." My mother said my sister was more fragile and warned that the truth would damage innocent clients. Then she said, "One daughter has already lost her wedding. I will not allow the other one to lose her future too." I photographed every page. I will not sign a statement that turns their decision into my confession. Minutes before the ceremony, my father blocked the service hallway. My former fiancé stood beside him. Dad handed me another document. It required me to admit I knew about the $500,000 loan and surrender any claim involving the forged signature. "That money was going to be yours eventually," he said. "We used it where the family needed it most." My former fiancé threatened to report me, sue me, and damage my license. I told him every file I reviewed carried my name. Everything else was with my attorney and his compliance department. Dad gripped my arm. "Sign it. Walk into that ballroom and stop humiliating this family." My brother and brother-in-law appeared. Dad released me. "Is there a reason you're preventing her from leaving?" my brother-in-law asked. I returned the papers. "You did not borrow from me, you forged me." Families built around one favored child often call fairness cruelty. When the dependable child stops paying, signing, and rescuing, everyone accuses that person of changing. The ceremony continued. They exchanged vows and signed the marriage license. My sister looked at me as though her signature had secured her victory. People believe a signature creates security. Sometimes it records the moment they accepted consequences they refused to examine. Afterward, the wedding planner found me. "Your toast is immediately after the father of the bride." My mother whispered, "Keep it gracious." I touched the velvet box. "I intend to tell the truth as graciously as I can." The ballroom doors opened, and my name was announced. The ballroom doors opened, and my name was announced. My father had just finished praising family, loyalty, honor, and the man who had betrayed me. When I stepped onto the stage, he rose. My brother-in-law met his eyes, and Dad sat down. I placed the red velvet box beside the microphone. For those who do not know me, I am the bride's older sister. Until 3 days ago, I was also the groom's fiancé. The room went silent. My sister wanted everything she believed belonged to me: the man, the wedding, the house. So I brought her one final gift: the truth about what she actually took. I set the box before the newlyweds and turned toward the screen. The first image appeared. It had been carefully cropped, nothing intimate was exposed. Their faces were clear, along with the clothing, date, and smart lock record. This is why my wedding was canceled. My sister called it private. It became a family matter when all of you demanded that I pay for the replacement wedding. A champagne glass struck the floor. I removed the jewelry receipt. It listed a gold chain and a teardrop diamond, priced at $25,000. Payment came from our joint account. Delivery went to my sister's apartment. I looked at the necklace against her throat. "You are wearing part of my retirement savings." Her hand covered the diamond. The next screen showed the missing $80,000. The small transfers had moved through a payment service, then into gambling accounts and the jewelry purchase. Each date carried a memory: a late meeting, a night he came home after midnight, an argument when he called me controlling. My former fiancé stood and shouted that I had stolen records. Every record on that screen came from an account bearing my name. Copies have been preserved by the bank, my attorney, and your firm's compliance department. The next slide showed the $500,000 loan, the signature I had not written, my sister's phone number on the authentication record, and the notary employed by my father's company. $200,000 went to his business. $300,000 went to an account connected to my mother and sister. These documents are now under formal review. I did not sign them. Then my mother's voicemail filled the room. She explained that the old signature sample had worked. My sister should stop posting purchases, and Dad's assistant had handled the notarization. The recording ended. "She has always cleaned up after us. She will do it again." Revenge asks how much pain you can cause. Justice asks how much truth is necessary. The difference determines whether you walk away free or remain tied to those who hurt you. One managing partner checked his phone and stood. "Your system access has been suspended. Do not contact a single client until our investigation is complete." My sister turned to her husband. "What investigation?" I pushed the box toward her. Inside was a card. She opened it. "You did not take my future. You took responsibility for your own choices." My sister tore the necklace from her throat and threw it onto the table. She said I had always been jealous of her. She accused me of waiting until her wedding day to humiliate her and ruin her husband's career. I let her finish. "I did not buy that necklace with stolen money. I did not sign that loan. I did not sleep with your sister's fiancé. I only stopped hiding what all of you chose to do." Her husband lunged toward the podium and demanded the USB. He claimed the files belonged to his company, that I had broken confidentiality laws, and that he would sue me. Hotel security stepped between us. My brother-in-law explained that the drive contained my bank statements, trust records bearing my name, a voicemail sent to my phone, and business filings. Any client material had gone to the firm's compliance department. My father ordered the staff to shut off the screen, collect phones, block the exits, and call it a private family misunderstanding. No one listened. Guests were calling banks and attorneys. Investors moved away from the head table. Others refused photographs and left. My father had spent his life believing money gave him control over every room. That evening, he learned that money only controls people while they still believe you have it. My mother turned to me in tears. How could you do this to your own family? I asked myself that same question when I found my signature on a loan I never approved. She insisted they had only borrowed the money and planned to return it once his business recovered. She had just confirmed her involvement. My brother-in-law handed my parents preservation notices, the signature dispute, the administrative hold, and instructions that future contact must go through counsel. No one here is being arrested tonight, he said, but no one is moving another dollar either. I did not stay to watch my sister question her husband, the investors surround him, or my parents blame each other. For most of my life, I stayed after every family crisis. I made calls, paid bills, calmed tempers, and cleaned up what others had broken. Walking away is hardest for the person who has always stayed behind to clean the room. You feel guilty even when the mess was made deliberately by people who expected you to erase it. I left with my brother and brother-in-law. Outside, the wind from Lake Michigan was cold. I removed my bridesmaid shoes and carried them to the car while the noise faded behind the ballroom doors. The next morning, the bank investigator called. My sister's phone number was not the only trail. The request to change my account information had come from the computer in my father's office. 6 months after the wedding, the investigation was still moving. Real life did not resolve itself as quickly as a slideshow. The bank needed weeks to verify records. Attorneys requested documents. Investigators interviewed each person separately, and a handwriting expert compared old signatures with the one on the loan. My former fiancé's firm completed an internal audit before regulators acted. By then, he had been suspended and fired. He could no longer contact clients or access company accounts. Investigators were reviewing the money taken from me and the $200,000 sent to his business. My sister lost sponsorships after brands learned how much of her image had been financed by disputed money. She returned the Porsche and sold jewelry and clothes to cover part of the guarantee she had signed. Within weeks, she moved back into my parents' house. One evening, she sent me a message. "You knew what he was. You should have warned me." I did not answer. She did not regret taking him, and she regretted discovering he was not worth what she had taken. My parents had to preserve devices, emails, and financial records. They could not transfer certain assets during the investigation. Friends stopped returning calls. Invitations disappeared. The clubs and committees that once mattered so much removed their names. And the house was not seized overnight. They listed it for sale to cover legal fees, the disputed loan, and other obligations. Consequences arrived slowly, one envelope at a time. I had losses of my own. I sold the Winnetka house because I could no longer imagine it as a home. My retirement plans changed. Several mutual friends chose silence because the truth made them uncomfortable. Worst of all, I no longer trusted my judgment. I moved into a smaller apartment in Evanston. On the first night, I sat between unopened boxes with one plate on the counter and no emergency waiting for me. The silence did not feel like freedom. It felt like an empty room after everyone had left. Vera began therapy with someone experienced in family financial abuse. She helped me understand that trusting people did not make me foolish. Long manipulation can make abnormal behavior feel ordinary. Financial independence does not prevent abuse, and professional knowledge does not always protect the heart. Cutting contact was not revenge, it was safety. I had to learn how to rest, accept help, and stop measuring my worth by how useful I could be. A person can win a case and still grieve the life the case proved was never real. Justice closes a file. Healing asks what you will build in the space that remains. One afternoon, my brother-in-law called. Prosecutors had completed their initial review and offered separate agreements based on evidence and cooperation. My parents wanted to meet me before deciding. A private mediation was scheduled. When I entered the conference room, my father, my mother, and my sister were already seated across the table. The conference room held no flowers, champagne, or cameras, only a wooden table and folders. At the wedding, they had surrounded themselves with people they wanted to impress. Here, they were surrounded only by facts they could no longer charm. My father spoke first. He said he had lost his position and reputation. My mother was barely sleeping. My sister had no income. The family had suffered enough. He described the stolen money as a decision made to protect an investment. He insisted they never believed I would lose anything permanently. Then he offered a deal. They would sell the house, repay the trust, apologize before our relatives, and name me sole heir to anything left. In return, I would request leniency, call the crime a poor family decision, accept reduced charges, and rebuild our relationship after the case. My mother said she was sorry things had gone too far. She did not apologize for using my name, taking my money, giving away my wedding, or protecting the man who betrayed me. We made mistakes because we were trying to keep the family together, she said. Even her apology protected the family image before it protected me. My sister said she had left her husband and filed for divorce. Then she asked me to cancel her personal guarantee, tell her sponsors she was a victim, and lend her money to start again. You always know how to fix things. After everything, she still saw me as responsible for cleaning up her choices. Some apologies are not offered to heal the person who was harmed. They are offered to reopen the door the wrongdoer can no longer enter. I did not ask for a specific sentence, and I did not interfere with anyone who cooperated, but I refused to trade the truth for an apology. You are free to tell the court what you did and why, I said. I will tell the truth about what it cost me. What happens after that belongs to the law. At the hearing, I spoke about threatened retirement savings, losing control of my identity, and seeing my signature used without me. I spoke about being taught that saying no was selfish, and how older adults can lose everything by trusting relatives. My former fiancé pleaded guilty to financial fraud and misuse of funds. He received prison time and restitution. My parents accepted separate agreements involving repayment, supervision, and penalties. They sold the house. My father's assistant cooperated, lost her job, and provided the records investigators needed. My sister was not convicted for her husband's crimes. She remained responsible for the guarantee she signed and returned property bought with disputed money. After the hearing, my mother called from a new number. No matter what happened, you are still our daughter. I saved the voicemail. I did not call back. 1 year later, I lived in a smaller house near Lake Michigan. It had wide windows facing the water, an old wooden table, and a spare room for people I trusted. Nothing had been chosen to impress anyone. The fraudulent lien had been removed from my trust. I did not use the money to recreate the life I once planned. I kept working as a forensic accountant, but the work felt different. I helped create training about family fraud, forged signatures, joint accounts, and financial control. I taught people to preserve records and seek legal help before shame kept them silent. I used what happened to help others notice danger sooner. Our first holiday there was simple. My brother-in-law, and friends sat around the old table. We ate, washed dishes, and laughed without anyone asking me to solve a crisis. For most of my life, I thought family was the group I was obligated to rescue. It took losing them to understand that family can also be the people who refuse to let you drown. My sister's former husband was serving his sentence and making restitution. She worked and paid the obligation she had signed. My parents lived in a rented apartment far from the circles that once defined them. They still told people I had overreacted. I stopped correcting them. One morning, I listened to my mother's voicemail. You are still our daughter. Once, those words would have pulled me back. Not anymore. Blood did not erase consequences. Love did not require access. Forgiveness did not mean reopening a door that had nearly destroyed me. I deleted the message. Then I sent my engagement ring to an auction house. When it sold, I donated the money to an organization helping victims of financial abuse. I did not keep the ring as a trophy or throw it into the lake. I turned it into something useful. For years, I believed my worth would become real when my parents recognized it, my sister respected it, or a man chose me. I was wrong. Their approval never created my value, and their betrayal never erased it. I did not win because they lost money, status, or freedom. I won because I stopped asking people who had used me to tell me who I was. The deepest freedom is not watching the people who hurt you fall. It is reaching a morning when their rise or fall no longer determines the weather inside your home. Were you satisfied with the way I handled what my family did? Do you believe I was right to reveal the truth at the wedding, or should I have left everything to the legal process? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I would like to know what you would have done in my place.